The morning sun filtered through the windshield, warm and golden, as Daniel Hale guided his sleek car toward the registry office. Today was the day he planned to begin a new life. A future of stability, joy, partnership, and peace. Elena, his fiancée, sat beside him in quiet excitement, gently adjusting the ribbon on the bouquet resting in her lap. She hummed softly, a hopeful tune that made the moment feel almost dreamlike. Everything was unfolding exactly as planned, exactly as promised. Yet beneath Daniel's calm smile, something restless flickered. His heart beat a little faster than usual and he couldn't explain why. The streets glimmered with movement, cyclists weaving through the morning air, pedestrians strolling with coffee cups in hand, the city rising into full rhythm. Daniel should have felt happiness, certainty, pride. Instead, an unexpected heaviness settled on him, like a quiet whisper he couldn't translate. He tried to focus on the registry office ahead, imagining family waiting, signatures ready, a celebration only moments away. But as the car slowed at a red light, his thoughts drifted, uninvited and impossible to ignore. He glanced out the window. His gaze landed on a bus stop across the street. His heartbeat stuttered, breath catching in his throat. Standing there, holding the hands of two small children, was a woman he had once loved deeply, a woman he believed was no longer part of his story. The world seemed to pause, shrinking into a single moment that felt impossibly familiar and shockingly new. The children looked like her, yet something in their eyes made Daniel's pulse race with recognition. He blinked once, unable to look away. The light turned green, but Daniel felt rooted to the moment, unaware that everything he thought was certain was about to change forever. Daniel didn't move. He barely breathed. Elena turned to him, confused by the sudden stillness. "Is everything all right?" she asked gently, but her voice sounded distant, almost muffled, as if it came from another place entirely. Daniel couldn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the woman at the bus stop. Lila. The name rose in his mind like a memory he tried to seal away. She gently brushed hair away from one girl's face, then knelt to tie the other's shoelace. It was a small, ordinary moment, yet Daniel felt the ground shift beneath him. The twins looked no older than 3. Their bright eyes scanned passing cars, curious and unaware of the weight hanging in the air. One of them pointed toward Daniel's car, smiling for no reason he could understand. Something about that smile struck him deeply. He gripped the wheel tighter, unable to blink away the feeling that fate had placed them here deliberately, at the exact moment he was on his way to pledge his future. The woman he once loved, someone he had imagined marrying himself, standing only a few feet away with 2 children who shared her features so clearly. Daniel swallowed hard. A thought rose uninvited, frightening in its clarity. They looked a little like him too. Elena leaned closer, studying his face. Her excitement slowly softened into concern. "Daniel?" she whispered. He forced himself to inhale, slow and uneven. He told himself to focus on today, on Elena, on the plans ahead, on the certainty he had worked so hard to build. The light changed again. Cars behind him began to edge forward impatiently. But Daniel remained frozen in place, unable to look away from the past that had quietly reappeared and was now staring directly back at him. Daniel finally eased the car forward and turned onto a quiet side street, pulling over as Elena watched him in silence. The air between them felt fragile, as if one wrong word would cause something to break. His pulse was heavy, racing with questions he didn't want to ask but could no longer ignore. He rested his forehead against the steering wheel for a moment, hoping the pressure would steady him. It didn't. Instead, it pushed one truth forward. He needed to see them again. He needed to know if what he saw was real. Elena reached out and touched his arm. "Daniel, please talk to me. You're scaring me a little." Her tone was soft but filled with honest worry, and he hated that he had caused it. He lifted his head, trying to form a response, but the words tangled somewhere between his heart and his lips. "I think I just saw someone I used to know," he said quietly. He didn't say her name. He didn't mention the children. It felt too soon to speak aloud something he barely understood. Elena nodded slowly, though confusion still clouded her eyes. "Do you want to go back?" she asked. The question surprised him. She wasn't angry. She wasn't suspicious. She was simply trying to understand him. But Daniel didn't trust his voice to answer. Instead, he stepped out of the car, breathing in the fresh morning air. He looked back toward the bus stop. The distance made it hard to see clearly, but they were still there. Lila and the twins waiting patiently, unaware of the storm they had stirred inside him. Daniel felt something shift inside, a quiet pull guiding his steps forward. His heart pounded, not with fear, but with the feeling that life had just given him a second doorway. One he never expected. One he wasn't sure he was ready for. Yet still he walked. Each step toward the bus stop felt heavier than the last, as if the air itself resisted him. Daniel became aware of every sound around him. Distant horns, shoes tapping pavement, voices carried by the breeze, yet everything felt strangely muted. His thoughts moved faster than his feet, colliding into one another, creating questions he had no idea how to answer. What would he say? What did he hope to find? Why now, on this day of all days? Still, something within him pushed forward. It wasn't impulse. It was instinct. A quiet knowing he couldn't ignore. From the corner of his eye, he saw Elena watching him through the open car door, holding her bouquet tightly. Her expression was unreadable, a mixture of worry, confusion, and trust. She didn't call after him, didn't demand an explanation. Instead, she waited, hoping he would return with clarity, not chaos. Daniel silently promised himself he would. But first, he needed to understand the moment unfolding ahead. As he drew closer, the girls noticed him again. One of them pointed, her little face bright with recognition, though they had never met. Lila turned then, meeting Daniel's eyes fully for the first time in years. Time didn't slow, it stopped. He saw the same warmth he once knew, but dimmer now, softened by challenges she had carried alone. A gentle smile flickered across her lips, polite and cautious. "Daniel," she said quietly, acknowledging him with steady grace. He opened his mouth, unsure which words would emerge, a greeting, an apology, or simply her name. But all of them vanished the moment he looked at the twins standing beside her. Two children, bright and curious, staring up at him with open wonder. Their small hands clasped around Lila's, their faces filled with something he couldn't name. In that instant, Daniel felt a new truth rising, not overwhelming, not frightening, just real. The past wasn't reaching for him to drag him back. It was offering something entirely different. A chance to understand who he truly was, who he could still become, and what kind of story his life was meant to shape next. Daniel stood before them, heart unsteady, unsure where to focus, on their familiar eyes, on Lila's gentle calm, or on the sudden wave of emotion rising through him. He managed a small greeting. Lila smiled softly, and the twins responded with shy giggles that broke the tension like sunlight through clouds. One child stepped forward, curious and confident, announcing her name as Lily. The other, quieter, hid half her face behind her sister before whispering her own name, Grace. Their voices were music, innocent and warm, drifting into Daniel's memory as if they had always belonged there. He knelt to their level, not out of certainty but out of respect. The world seemed to quiet around them. Lila watched with cautious kindness, uncertain of his intentions, unsure whether this unexpected reunion would bring healing or harm. Daniel spoke gently to the girls, asking simple questions. How old they were, where they were headed, what they liked to do. The conversation was brief, but every answer made the moment feel larger, heavier, brighter. 3 years old. On their way to meet a friend. They liked drawing, music, stories. Ordinary details that felt extraordinary simply because they were real. Daniel rose slowly, turning his attention to Lila. He sensed the strength beneath her calm, the resilience behind her smile. She looked different from the woman he remembered, quieter, wiser, steadier, and he realized she had walked many roads without him. He felt a quiet shift inside, admiration mixed with regret, gratitude mixed with wonder. "You seem happy," he said softly. She nodded, a hint of surprise crossing her face. "We are," she answered. Before he could respond, the faint sound of footsteps approached from behind. Elena had walked toward them, bouquet still in hand, her expression open and unguarded. She didn't interrupt. She simply stood beside Daniel, patiently waiting to understand, offering calm instead of judgment. The twins looked up at her with curiosity. Elena gave them a warm smile, gentle, kind, without hesitation. In that moment, Daniel felt something incredible, possibility. A future that wasn't divided between past and present, but shaped by truth, compassion, and choice. The day no longer felt like a straight path. It felt like an intersection, and the light had just turned green. The bus arrived, doors opening with a gentle hiss, yet no one stepped forward immediately. The world felt suspended, holding its breath. Daniel looked from Elena to Lila, then to the twins, feeling a clarity he had not expected. A sense that this moment was not a disruption to his life, but a turning point meant to show him something larger than he had ever seen. He realized he wasn't afraid anymore. He wasn't confused. He was simply awake in a way he hadn't been for years. Elena reached for his hand, her voice steady and calm. "Whatever you're feeling, I want to understand," she said. There was no demand in her words, only trust. Lila watched them with quiet grace. Her eyes held something deeper than hope, acceptance. She wasn't searching for answers or explanations. She wasn't asking anything from him. She had built a life strong enough to stand without his presence. Daniel admired that more than he could say. He turned to the girls, who were now studying the bus with fascination, unaware of the enormity wrapped around the moment. "It was good to meet you," he told them, his voice warm. Lily smiled brightly, waving, while Grace leaned into her mother's side with shy affection. The simple innocence of their gestures eased something tight in his chest. Lila gave a small nod, gratitude shining in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, though Daniel wasn't sure what she was thanking him for, the kindness, the recognition, or simply showing up. The twins climbed onto the bus, followed by Lila. Before the doors closed, she looked back one last time, offering a gentle smile that carried peace rather than longing. As the bus pulled away, Daniel exhaled slowly, sensing the weight inside him shift into something brighter. Elena stepped closer. "Ready to go?" she asked. He nodded, but first turned to look at the empty space where the bus had been. He felt changed, not broken, not shaken, but awakened to a truth he had almost forgotten. Life's most meaningful moments aren't always planned. Sometimes they appear like open doors, reminding us of who we were and guiding us closer to who we want to be. With renewed calm, Daniel took Elena's hand. Together they walked back to the car, not chasing a perfect future, but embracing an honest one, built on trust, compassion, and the courage to grow.